The sky above New Horizon burned. Lieutenant Thomas Reed watched through cracked helmet displays as another orbital defense platform erupted into flames, raining superheated debris across the colony's protective shields. The Ravager assault had come without warning, their biomechanical ships darkening the skies of humanity's most distant outpost. "Status report," he barked into his comm, voice steady despite the chaos. Around him, the remnants of his squad held position in the ruins of what had been the colony's advanced research center. The mission was simple: protect the quantum core at all costs. If the Ravagers got their tentacles on that technology, Earth itself would be next. "East sector clear," came Sergeant Wilson's response, punctuated by plasma fire. "But those big bastards are moving in from the north." "Never seen anything like them, sir." Reed had. The towering forms moving through the smoke were Ravager Titans, 15-foot-tall monstrosities of flesh and metal that walked on four spider-like legs. Their upper bodies were vaguely humanoid, if you ignored the multiple arms and weapon systems grafted into their torsos. "Hold the line," he ordered, checking his rifle's charge. 20%. "Not great, but it would have to do. Remember your training. Aim for the joint sections between." The wall behind him exploded inward. Reed's enhanced reflexes saved his life, letting him dive and roll as tons of reinforced concrete crashed down. When he came up firing, he found himself face to face with a Titan. The thing's biomechanical eyes focused on him, weapon ports glowing with gathering energy. Reed emptied his rifle into its chest, the plasma bolts scorching its armored hide but doing little real damage. As the Titan raised its arms to fire, Reed knew he was out of options. That's when something massive hit the Titan from above. Reed's first impression was of purple skin and rippling muscle. A figure nearly 9 feet tall landed on the Titan's shoulders, driving it to the ground with impossible force. Two powerful arms wrapped around the creature's head and twisted with brutal efficiency. There was a sound like tearing metal, and the Titan went limp. The figure stood, and Reed found himself staring up at what could only be a sentinel, one of the legendary warrior women from the Andromeda Arm. Her skin was a deep lavender, marked with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with power. Silver-white hair framed a face that managed to be both alien and breathtaking. "You fight well, little one," she said, her voice carrying an accent he couldn't place. "But this position is lost. Come with me if you wish to live." Reed's training screamed at him to refuse. The Sentinels were notorious for their isolationist policies, refusing to take sides in galactic conflicts. But as more Titans emerged through the smoke and his rifle's charge hit zero, he realized he had no choice. "Lieutenant Thomas Reed," he managed, rising to his feet. "And I appreciate the assist, but I can't leave. That quantum core can't fall into Ravager hands." The Sentinel's lips curved in what might have been a smile. "I am Kyra of the Third House. And your core was evacuated 20 minutes ago by my sisters. This is merely a diversion to keep the Ravagers occupied." Before Reed could process this, Kyra moved with blinding speed. One moment he was standing, the next he found himself cradled in powerful arms as she leapt clear of the building. They soared through the air with impossible grace, even as explosions bloomed behind them. "My squad," Reed started to protest. "Are already safe," Kyra assured him as she landed on a nearby rooftop. "We Sentinels may be neutral, but we are not blind to the Ravager threat. Sometimes, taking no action is the same as choosing the wrong side." As they moved through the burning city with inhuman speed and grace, Reed found himself studying his rescuer's face. There was strength there, yes, but also something else. A warmth in her eyes that seemed at odds with everything he'd heard about the warrior race. "Why did you save me?" he asked finally. Kyra leapt across another gap between buildings before answering. "Because you stayed. When the others fell back, you held your ground. Such courage deserves recognition." She glanced down at him with those striking eyes. "And perhaps it is time for both our peoples to rethink old prejudices. The sound of pursuit grew behind them, more Titans, moving fast. Kyra's expression hardened as she adjusted her grip on Reed. "Hold tight, little warrior," she said, a hint of mischief in her tone. "Things are about to get interesting." As they raced through the burning city with death on their heels, Reed realized that the galaxy he thought he knew was about to change forever. And somehow, impossibly, he was ready for it. The Sentinel Sanctuary city of Luminara was unlike anything Thomas Reed had ever seen. Crystalline spires rose into the violet skies of the moon they called Haven, their surfaces refracting the light of distant stars into mesmerizing patterns. After 3 days of recovery in their medical facilities, he was finally strong enough to stand at the observation window of his quarters, taking in the alien beauty of it all. "Your heart rate indicates anxiety," came Kyra's voice from the doorway. She moved with that fluid grace that still captivated him, her towering form somehow managing to make the spacious room feel small. "Are you in pain?" "Just processing," Reed replied, turning to face her. The Sentinel warrior had traded her battle armor for what he assumed was more casual attire, flowing garments that somehow enhanced rather than concealed her powerful physique. It's not every day a human gets to see the inside of a Sentinel city. The diplomatic corps back home would have a field day. Kyra's bioluminescent markings pulsed with what he was learning to recognize as amusement. "Is that what troubles you? The political implications of your presence here?" "Among other things." Reed gestured to the city beyond the window. "Your people have capabilities we've only dreamed of. That healing chamber that fixed my injuries in days instead of months. The weapons you used against the Ravager Titans. Yet you've stayed neutral in every major conflict." "Until now," Kyra reminded him, moving to stand beside him. Her presence radiated warmth, and Reed found himself increasingly aware of how she seemed to orient herself protectively around him. "The Ravagers are different. They do not seek conquest or resources. They seek only destruction." Reed nodded, remembering the horrors he'd witnessed. "They're not even fully organic anymore. The integration of mechanical components, the way they harvest biological material from their victims to create more Titans." He shuddered. "But why show me all this? Why trust me?" Kyra was quiet for a long moment, her silver-white hair catching the starlight. "Walk with me," she said finally. "There is something you should see." They moved through the crystalline corridors of the city, drawing curious looks from other sentinels. Reed noticed that while all of them were impressively tall, Kyra stood out even among her own kind. There was an authority to her bearing that went beyond physical presence. "The Sentinels have watched humanity for centuries," she explained as they walked. "Your kind fascinated us. So small, so fragile compared to many species, yet possessed of an indomitable will. Where others saw weakness in your diversity, we saw strength. In your short lives, you burned so brightly." They entered what appeared to be some kind of war room, its walls covered in holographic displays showing military movements across the galaxy. Reed's tactical training kicked in immediately. He recognized Ravager fleet positions, human defense lines, and... "Is that Earth?" he asked, pointing to a detailed strategic analysis of his homeworld's defenses. "Yes." Kyra's expression grew serious. "The Ravagers are not attacking random colonies, Thomas. They are systematically gathering intelligence, testing defenses. New Horizon was targeted because of its quantum research, yes, but also to gauge human military response times. They are planning something larger." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. "An invasion of Earth itself. The first wave is already in motion." Kyra waved her hand, and the displays shifted to show a massive fleet gathering in deep space. "This is why we finally broke our neutrality. This is why I saved you. Humanity will need allies in the coming war, and the Sentinels." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "We have chosen our side." "Why me?" Reed asked, though something in her gaze made his pulse quicken. "I'm just one lieutenant. Kyra's hand found his shoulder, her touch gentle despite her strength. Because in you, I see the best of both our peoples. The courage to stand against impossible odds. The wisdom to know when to accept help. And her markings pulsed with an emotion he couldn't quite read, perhaps something more. Before Reed could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the city. The tactical displays flashed red as new contacts appeared. Ravager ships, Kyra growled, her warrior's demeanor returning instantly. They followed your signal here. That's impossible, Reed protested. My beacon was destroyed in the attack. No, Kyra's expression darkened. They followed your quantum core signature. The evacuation was a trap, they wanted us to take it. Her eyes met his again, but now they held steel. Are you ready to fight alongside us, Thomas Reed? Reed straightened, squaring his shoulders. Just point me at the enemy. Kyra's fierce smile made his heart race. Then let me show you how Sentinels go to war. The Sentinel Armory put Earth's most advanced military facilities to shame. Reed watched in amazement as Kyra's battle armor assembled itself around her towering form, the crystalline plates flowing like liquid metal before hardening into an iridescent shell. His own borrowed armor was slightly smaller but no less impressive, adapting to his human physiology with remarkable efficiency. The neural interface will take some getting used to, Kyra warned as she handed him what looked like an evolved version of his plasma rifle. Sentinel weapons respond to thought as much as physical input. Try not to think too aggressively at first. The weapon hummed in Reed's hands, its energy core pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. Any other warnings before we face an army of biomechanical horrors? Just one. Kyra's expression softened momentarily as she stepped closer, her armored hand gentle on his cheek. Stay alive, little warrior. I'm not finished with you yet. Before Reed could respond, the city's defenses roared to life. Energy shields flickered into existence as the first Ravager ships entered weapons range. Through the command center's windows, Reed watched massive Sentinel defense platforms rise from hidden silos, their crystalline structures unfolding like deadly flowers. Multiple breach attempts detected, announced a calm voice over the city's comm system. Titan deployment pods incoming. All warriors to battle stations. They're not just attacking, Reed realized, studying the tactical displays. This is a full invasion force. His military training kicked in as he analyzed their movement patterns. But something's wrong. These formations, they're too obvious. Too predictable, Kyra finished, her eyes narrowing. They want us focused on the direct assault. She spun to face the command staff. Check the quantum signatures. They're using the core's energy pattern too. The floor beneath them buckled as an explosion rocked the lower levels. Warning lights flashed as breach alerts sounded from multiple sectors. They've been tunneling, Reed said grimly. Using the core's signature to mask their underground approach. The space attack is just a diversion. Kyra's markings pulsed with battle rage. Then we fight them below. Command, coordinate the orbital defense. Lieutenant Reed and I will lead the ground teams. She turned to Reed. Ready to show these abominations how humans and Sentinels fight together. Reed checked his weapon's charge, feeling the neural interface sync with his thoughts. Lead the way, warrior. They moved through the city's crystalline corridors with practiced efficiency, their footsteps echoing in perfect rhythm despite their size difference. Other Sentinel warriors fell in behind them, a strike force of living legends armed with technology beyond human understanding. The lower levels were already a war zone. Ravager Titans emerged from broken floors and walls, their biomechanical forms even more horrific up close. Reed saw how they had evolved since New Horizon, their armor now incorporating salvaged Sentinel technology. They adapt quickly, Kyra growled as they engaged the first wave. Learn from every encounter. Reed's borrowed weapon responded to his thoughts with devastating accuracy, each shot finding weak points in Titan armor. Fighting alongside Kyra felt natural, almost instinctive. She would engage the larger threats directly, her incredible strength letting her tear through their defenses while Reed provided precision fire support. "The core signature is strongest through that breach," he called out, indicating a massive hole torn through several levels. "They're trying to reach something down there." Kyra dispatched another Titan with brutal efficiency. "The city's heart. An ancient power source that predates even my people. If they corrupt it with their biomechanical virus, the entire city dies," Reed finished. "And they gain access to power that would make the quantum core look like a battery." They fought their way down through increasingly damaged sections of the city, their strike team slowly whittled down by the endless waves of Titans. Reed's armor was scorched and dented, but the neural interface kept him moving, kept him fighting. Finally, they reached the lowest level. The chamber before them pulsed with ancient energy, its crystalline walls threaded with veins of living light. And in the center, surrounded by dozens of Titans, stood something new. "By the ancestors," Kyra breathed. "They've made a queen." The creature towered over even the regular Titans, its form a nightmarish fusion of Ravager biology and stolen technology. Multiple faces studded its upper body, each wearing an expression of eternal agony. As it turned to face them, Reed felt an alien consciousness brush against his mind. "Your city will become our new nest," the Queen's voice echoed in their thoughts. "Your power will feed our evolution. And you." Its many eyes fixed on Reed, "You will help us understand how to break humanity's will." "Not while I draw breath," Kyra snarled, stepping protectively in front of Reed. Her armor blazed with power as she drew herself up to her full height. "He is under my protection. This city is under my protection. And you will learn why the galaxy once feared the Sentinel armies." The Queen's response was a psychic scream that dropped several warriors to their knees. As Titans surged forward and the chamber erupted into chaos, Reed pressed his back against Kyra's, their weapons raised. "Together?" he asked. He felt rather than saw her fierce smile. "Together, little warrior. Let them taste our fury." The chamber of the city's heart became a maelstrom of chaos and energy. Reed's enhanced reflexes, amplified by the Sentinel armor, let him dance between Titan attacks while maintaining a constant barrage of precision shots. Behind him, Kyra moved like a force of nature, her crystalline blade carving through biomechanical horrors with devastating grace. The Queen watched from the center of the chamber, its multiple faces twisted in a mockery of amusement. Each time they dropped a Titan, its broken components were drawn back toward the massive creature, absorbed and repurposed into new forms. "Your resistance is biochemically inefficient," the Queen's thoughts invaded their minds again. "Submit to evolution. Become perfect." "Perfection without choice is stagnation," Reed shot back, his neural interface translating the thought into a devastating burst from his weapon. The blast caught a Titan in its central mass, causing it to explode in a shower of mechanical components and corrupted flesh. Kyra's voice cut through the chaos. "Thomas. The power conduits." He followed her gaze to the crystalline veins running through the chamber walls. Where Titan weapons had damaged them, the living light pulsed erratically. A tactical analysis flashed through his mind. "If we overload them," he started. "The feedback could destroy the Queen," Kyra finished. "But the city's heart would be damaged. My people would lose our ancient power source." Reed dispatched another Titan while processing the implications. "Your entire civilization depends on this power. There has to be another way. Our civilization depends on more than power." Kyra's eyes met his even as she drove her blade through an attacking Titan. "It depends on choice. On change." Her markings pulsed with fierce determination. "On proving we can rise above our ancient ways when necessity demands it." The Queen seemed to sense their intent. More Titans peeled away from its massive form, their weapons charging. Your biological sentiment blinds you to evolutionary imperatives. The human strategic value will be better utilized within our collective. Lady, Reed growled, you talk too much. He switched his weapon's neural interface to maximum output, feeling the energy build to dangerous levels. Kyra, on my mark. They moved in perfect synchronization. Reed's overcharged weapon fire drew Titan attention while Kyra launched herself toward the chamber's main power junction. The Queen's psychic scream of realization came too late. Now! Reed shouted, sending a final burst into the nearest power conduit just as Kyra's blade struck the junction. The world turned to light and sound. Reed felt himself thrown backward, his armor systems screaming warnings. Through the chaos, he sensed Kyra's presence, felt her powerful arms wrap around him as she used her own body to shield him from the blast. When his vision cleared, the chamber was in ruins. The Queen's massive form lay shattered, its components twitching with the last remnants of corrupted life. The few surviving Titans collapsed, their connection to their leader severed. Kyra. Reed tried to sit up, his armor registering multiple system failures. Kyra. Still here, little warrior. Her voice was strained but carried a note of amusement. She lay beside him, her armor cracked but intact. Though I believe we'll both be spending more time in the healing chambers after this. Reed reached for her hand, their armored fingers intertwining. Your city, the power source, can be rebuilt. Kyra's markings pulsed weakly but steadily. My ancestors built this place with crystal and starlight. We can do so again. She turned to face him, her expression softening. Perhaps with some human ingenuity to improve the design. Is that an invitation to stick around? It is. Kyra winced as she propped herself up on one elbow, an acknowledgement that some things are worth more than power. Worth more than tradition. Her free hand traced the line of his jaw. The Ravagers sought to force evolution through conquest. But true evolution comes from choice. From accepting change, even when it comes in unexpected forms. Around them, emergency systems activated as Sentinel rescue teams approached. Reed could hear the sounds of battle fading above as the remaining Ravager forces retreated from orbit. Your people may not approve, he said softly. A human living among Sentinels, helping to rebuild. Kyra's laugh was like distant chimes. My people just watched a human lieutenant help save our ancestral home while wielding our most advanced weapons. I think. Her lips curved in a smile that made his heart race, they'll learn to adapt. The rescue teams found them like that, hands clasped among the ruins of the old world, ready to build something new. As medical units assessed their injuries, Reed caught fragments of conversation from the Sentinel warriors, not about the lost power source or the damage to their city, but about the way their strongest warrior looked at the small human who had fought beside her. I suppose we'll be the talk of the city, he murmured as they were helped to their feet. Kyra's markings pulsed with that now familiar warmth. Let them talk. We have more important matters to discuss. Her expression turned serious. The Ravagers will return, stronger for what they learned here. Earth will need to be warned. Defenses will need to be coordinated between our peoples. Sounds like a big job. Indeed. Kyra's smile returned. Fortunately, I know a capable human officer with experience in both cultures. Assuming he's interested in a more permanent position here. As they made their way back through the battle-scarred corridors of Luminera, Reed realized that the galaxy had changed irreversibly in the span of a few days. Humanity had gained powerful allies, the Sentinels had embraced change, and he had found something he never knew he was looking for. Well? Kyra prompted, her eyes twinkling with starlight. What do you say, little warrior? Reed's answer was all she had hoped for. 1 month after the Battle of Luminera's heart, the crystalline spires of the Sentinel City gleamed with renewed purpose. Reed stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed diplomatic wing, watching shuttles arrive from Earth. The impossible had happened. After centuries of isolation, the Sentinels had officially opened their doors to humanity. Nervous? Kyra's familiar warmth announced her presence before her voice did. She wore formal Sentinel attire, the flowing garments highlighting both her warrior's physique and her noble bearing. The scars from their battle with the Queen had healed, leaving her even more striking than before. A little, Reed admitted, adjusting his own diplomatic uniform, a unique fusion of human military dress and Sentinel styling. It's not every day you help broker an alliance between two civilizations. You're doing more than that. Kyra moved to stand beside him, her height casting a protective shadow. You're showing both our peoples a new way forward. Her markings pulsed with pride. The reports from Earth's Defense Command are promising. The quantum shielding technology we provided has already been successfully integrated into their planetary defense grid. Reed nodded, remembering the faces of the human scientists when they first saw Sentinel technology in action. And the neural interface training program? Proceeding ahead of schedule. It seems humans adapt to our technology even more quickly than we anticipated. Kyra's lips curved in a smile. Though few as quickly as you did, little warrior. The pet name still made his heart skip, even after everything they'd been through. Before he could respond, the chamber's doors slid open to admit a delegation of Sentinel elders and human military officials. Lieutenant Reed, Admiral Richardson stepped forward, her weathered face breaking into a rare smile. Though I hear it's Ambassador Reed now. Sir. Reed straightened automatically, years of military training taking over. Thank you for coming in person. How could I not? The Admiral's eyes moved meaningfully between Reed and Kyra. When my best tactical officer not only makes first contact with the Sentinels but also manages to. She paused diplomatically, forge such strong personal ties. Kyra's markings flickered with amusement. Your species has a gift for understatement, Admiral. The meeting that followed would have been unthinkable just months ago. Human military commanders sat alongside Sentinel elders, sharing intelligence about Ravager movements and discussing joint defense strategies. Reed watched with pride as both sides found common ground in their determination to protect their peoples. The Ravager threat has evolved beyond our predictions, one of the elders announced, activating a holographic display. The Queen we destroyed was only one of many. They learn from each encounter, incorporating defeated technology into their next wave. Then we'll learn faster, Reed stated firmly. Humans and Sentinels together, combining our strengths. The Ravagers adapt through forced evolution, we'll adapt through cooperation. He felt Kyra's approval radiate through their now familiar neural link. Since the battle, their connection had grown stronger, allowing them to share not just thoughts but emotions. It had caused quite a stir among both humans and Sentinels, being the first such cross-species bond ever recorded. Which brings us to another matter, Admiral Richardson said, her expression turning serious. The Joint Defense Force we're proposing, it would need leaders who understand both cultures. Who have proven they can work together under fire. Reed met Kyra's eyes, feeling her immediate understanding through their link. You want us to command it. Who better? The Admiral spread her hands. You've already shown what humans and Sentinels can accomplish together. And after reviewing the battle footage from Luminara. She shook her head in amazement, I've never seen anything like it. There would be challenges, one of the elders cautioned. No such combined force has ever existed. The differences in size, strength, tactical doctrine. Are advantages, not obstacles, Kyra interrupted firmly. Her hand found Reed's shoulder. Our differences make us stronger. The Ravagers seek uniformity through conquest. We will show them the power of diversity freely chosen. The discussions continued well into the evening, hammering out details of what would become the first joint human-Sentinel military force. Throughout it all, Reed felt a growing sense of rightness. This was where he belonged, not just with Kyra, but at the forefront of this new alliance. Later, as the twin sun set over Luminara, Reed and Kyra stood together on their private balcony. The city below hummed with activity as human construction crews worked alongside Sentinel architects, rebuilding and improving what the Ravagers had damaged. Having second thoughts? Kyra asked softly, her arms encircling him from behind. Reed leaned back against her, feeling the steady pulse of her markings. About commanding an experimental military force while trying to unite two very different species. He smiled. Never. You. Only about one thing. She turned him to face her, and Reed was struck again by the play of starlight across her features. Among my people, warriors who form such deep bonds traditionally make them formal. Permanent. Reed's breath caught as he understood. Are you asking me to marry you, warrior Kyra? Her markings pulsed with joy and nervousness, an endearing combination on such a powerful being. I believe the human phrase is, what do you say, little warrior? Reed's answer was everything she had hoped for and more. As they sealed their promise with a kiss, the stars of two galaxies witnessed the beginning of something new, not just between them, but for all their peoples. The Ravagers would return, yes. But they would find humanity and the Sentinels ready. Together they would forge a future that neither species could have imagined alone. And it all began because a 9-foot warrior woman looked at a human lieutenant and saw not weakness, but possibility. Some called it evolution. Others called it destiny. Reed and Kyra simply called it love.